Ford-class aircraft carrier, a floating fortress the size of 3 football fields, can launch stealth fighter jets, deploy drones, and withstand hypersonic missile attacks, all while cruising faster than most ships its size. Powered by nuclear reactors that won't need refueling for 50 years, it's more than a ship. It's a game changer. But in a world of rising threats like China's carrier-killer missiles and Russia's hypersonic weapons, can even this engineering masterpiece truly dominate the future of naval warfare? The historical importance of naval power. For centuries, the strength of a country's navy has been a defining factor in its ability to influence global events. Think about it. Control over the seas meant control over trade routes, resources, and, ultimately, power. Back in the colonial era, Britain was the undisputed leader of naval supremacy. With its Royal Navy dominating the oceans, Britain could project power across the world, enabling its empire to grow and flourish. It wasn't just about military strength. It was about ensuring its ships could traverse the globe unchallenged, bringing goods, wealth, and influence back to its shores. The Royal Navy was a symbol of British dominance, and no other nation could match its reach or capabilities for centuries. This supremacy allowed Britain to control colonies across continents, from India to the Americas. But as the 20th century rolled in, the tides of naval power began to shift. The devastating effects of 2 world wars and the rising cost of maintaining such a massive fleet forced Britain to relinquish its title as the world's foremost naval power. The torch was passed to the United States, a nation that had rapidly industrialized and emerged as a global superpower. Post-World War II, the United States established itself as the new leader in naval dominance. The country recognized that its geographical position, far removed from most global conflicts, required a robust navy to project power and protect its interests. Unlike European nations, whose conflicts often unfolded on their borders, the United States had to bring the fight, or the defense, overseas. And that's where aircraft carriers came into play. Aircraft carriers were a game changer in naval warfare. Imagine a floating airport, complete with runways, and the ability to deploy advanced fighter jets anywhere in the world. That's essentially what an aircraft carrier is. For the U.S., these massive ships became the ultimate tool for projecting power far from home shores. Whether it was about asserting dominance in the Pacific during World War II or responding to modern-day conflicts, aircraft carriers gave the U.S. Navy an unparalleled advantage. One of the key reasons aircraft carriers became so important was the shift in how wars were fought. Battles were no longer confined to specific locations or regions. Instead, they were global, and countries needed the capability to respond quickly and decisively. For the United States, with oceans on both sides and allies scattered worldwide, having mobile air bases was critical. Aircraft carriers could strike deep into enemy territory, support ground troops, and even serve as command centers for coordinating massive operations. Today, the United States Navy operates 11 active aircraft carriers, more than the rest of the world combined. This fleet isn't just about numbers. It's a testament to the country's commitment to maintaining its position as the world's leading naval power. These carriers form the backbone of the U.S. Navy's ability to project power and respond to threats anywhere on the planet. Think about it. Each of these carriers can carry up to 90 aircraft, including advanced fighter jets like the F-35C. They can travel at speeds of over 30 knots, making them not only powerful, but also incredibly mobile. These carriers don't work alone either. They're the centerpiece of carrier strike groups, which include destroyers, cruisers, submarines, and support ships. Together, they create a formidable force capable of handling anything from disaster relief to full-scale military conflict. What makes the U.S. Navy's reliance on aircraft carriers so fascinating is how it reflects the country's approach to global security. Aircraft carriers are more than just military assets. They're symbols of strength, deterrence, and influence. When a U.S. carrier shows up in a region, it sends a clear message. The United States is here, and it's ready to act. Whether it's about maintaining freedom of navigation in contested waters or providing humanitarian aid after a natural disaster, these carriers are a versatile tool for showcasing American leadership. In a world where geopolitical tensions continue to rise, the importance of these carriers cannot be overstated. They allow the U.S. to remain a global power, capable of responding to threats and supporting allies far from its shores. The sheer presence of a carrier in a region can deter aggression, stabilize conflicts, and reassure allies. The Gerald R. Ford-class carrier, a marvel of engineering, This isn't your average warship. It's a floating city, a powerhouse, and a symbol of cutting-edge engineering all rolled into one. If you've ever wondered what $100 billion can build, this is it. This beast is massive, 1,106 feet long, which is longer than 3 football fields placed end-to-end. It towers 249 feet high, almost as tall as a 25-story building, and weighs nearly 100,000 tons. Imagine trying to move something that enormous. But here's the crazy part. It's not just about size. This ship is incredibly fast for its weight. It can reach speeds of 34 miles per hour, which is almost unheard of for something this big. For perspective, that's faster than most cargo ships, and they're carrying far less complexity. What powers this enormous vessel? 2 state-of-the-art nuclear reactors. And these aren't just any reactors. They're designed to keep the ship running for an astonishing 50 years without needing to refuel. That's half a century of uninterrupted power. Think about the freedom and flexibility that provides for military operations. While other ships need to worry about fuel logistics, this carrier just keeps going, no matter where it is in the world. But the Gerald R. Ford isn't just about being big and fast. It's what's inside that really sets it apart. This carrier can carry up to 90 aircraft, including some of the most advanced jets in the world, like the F-35C Lightning II. These are 5th-generation fighter planes with stealth capabilities, cutting-edge sensors, and advanced weapons systems. And it doesn't stop there. The carrier also supports helicopters and unmanned aerial vehicles, UAVs, making it a versatile force for both offensive and defensive missions. One of the standout features of this carrier is its electromagnetic aircraft launch system, EMALS. If you're picturing those old-school steam catapults used to launch planes, think again. EMALS replaces that outdated tech with a sleek, modern system that uses electromagnetic energy to launch aircraft. This system isn't just more reliable, it's faster and smoother, reducing wear and tear on planes and improving overall performance. Planes can take off quicker, which means the carrier can launch more aircraft in less time. But that's just the start of its technological advancements. The Gerald R. Ford is packed with AI-enhanced systems that can make real-time tactical decisions. This isn't just a ship with weapons, it's a smart ship. Its AI can manage everything from energy distribution to combat strategy, giving commanders an unprecedented edge in decision-making. Imagine having a ship that not only follows orders, but can also analyze the battlefield and suggest the best course of action. Then, there's its energy system, which is a game-changer in modern warfare. The ship generates so much power that it can support high-energy weapons, like lasers and electromagnetic guns. Yes, we're talking about futuristic weaponry that you'd expect to see in a sci-fi movie. These systems are designed to counter new-age threats, like swarms of drones or hypersonic missiles. With this kind of capability, the Gerald R. Ford isn't just a warship. It's a shield, a sword, and a command center, all in one. Here's a fun fact that always blows my mind. Despite its size and weight, this carrier can move at speeds of up to 34 miles per hour. Think about that for a moment. Something as big as a skyscraper cutting through the water faster than most ships out there. That's the kind of engineering we're talking about. A blend of raw power and refined design that makes this carrier a marvel on every level. What's even more impressive is how all these features come together to make the Gerald R. Ford not just a tool of war, but a symbol of technological progress. It's designed to operate for decades, adapting to new technologies and challenges along the way. Whether it's deploying drones, launching fighter jets, or integrating new weapon systems, this ship is built to stay ahead of the curve. Carrier strike groups, a fortress of support. When we think about aircraft carriers, it's easy to picture them as solitary giants ruling the seas. But here's the thing, they never operate alone. Aircraft carriers are always at the heart of something much bigger and far more powerful. The Carrier Strike Group, CSG. Think of it like a team where the aircraft carrier is the captain, surrounded by a squad of highly skilled players, each with a specific role. Together, they create a nearly unstoppable force, capable of handling anything the ocean throws at them. At the core of every CSG is the aircraft carrier itself, a massive, floating airport and command center brimming with advanced technology and firepower. But even the mightiest carriers need protection. That's where the rest of the group comes in. A typical CSG includes guided missile cruisers, destroyers, submarines, and supply ships. Each member of the group plays a crucial role in keeping the carrier safe and operational. For example, cruisers and destroyers provide defense against incoming missiles, and enemy aircraft, while submarines focus on detecting and neutralizing underwater threats. Supply ships ensure that the group has enough food, fuel, and ammunition to keep running, even in the middle of nowhere. What makes a CSG so effective is how it creates multiple layers of defense. It's like an onion. Every layer is designed to stop threats before they can reach the core. The outermost layer focuses on long-range threats. Guided missile cruisers use advanced radar systems like the SPY-6 to detect dangers from hundreds of miles away, whether it's an enemy jet or a ballistic missile. They also deploy long-range missiles to intercept these threats before they get too close. It's like having a watchtower with archers ready to shoot down anything approaching the castle. The second layer, or mid-range defense, is where destroyers come into play. These ships handle threats that manage to slip past the first line of defense, like cruise missiles or fast-moving aircraft. Their job is to ensure nothing reaches the carrier's immediate vicinity. Finally, the close-range defense is the last line of protection. This includes systems like the CIWS, Close-In Weapon System, which can fire thousands of rounds per minute to take out anything that gets dangerously close. It's an incredibly tight-knit system, where every layer supports the others, ensuring the carrier remains safe no matter what. The strategic advantages of a carrier strike group are mind-blowing. First, there's its ability to project power across vast distances. A CSG can strike targets on land and sea over 1,000 miles away. That means it doesn't need to be anywhere near the battlefield to make a massive impact. Whether it's launching aircraft to support ground troops or firing missiles to neutralize enemy ships, the reach of a CSG is unparalleled. Second, it's incredibly self-sufficient. A single group can operate autonomously for up to 14 days without resupply. That's 2 weeks of continuous operations in the middle of the ocean, far from any base or support. This independence gives the CSG unmatched flexibility, allowing it to respond to crises or conflicts almost anywhere in the world. But all this power comes at a cost. Literally, maintaining a single carrier strike group costs an estimated $6.5 million per day. Think about that for a second. In just one day, the U.S. Navy spends more on a CSG than most people will ever see in their lifetime. Over the course of a year, that adds up to billions of dollars. And remember, the U.S. operates multiple CSGs simultaneously, which makes the overall cost astronomical. It's like running a high-stakes operation 24/7 with no room for error. Still, many argue that this expense is justified. The presence of a CSG in a region can deter aggression, stabilize tensions, and reassure allies. For adversaries, the sight of a CSG on the horizon sends a clear message. We're here and we're ready. It's a symbol of power and commitment, showing the world that the U.S. is prepared to defend its interests and those of its allies. Advanced defensive capabilities. When it comes to defending something as colossal and vital as an aircraft carrier, the stakes couldn't be higher. These ships are not just symbols of military power, they are prime targets in any conflict. To ensure their survival, aircraft carriers like the Gerald R. Ford are equipped with some of the most advanced defensive technologies ever created. And let me tell you, these systems are no joke. They form a multi-layered defense network that can take on threats from the air, the sea, and even beneath the waves. It's like wrapping the ship in an invisible shield of cutting-edge tech and raw firepower. This is where the carrier strike group detects and neutralizes threats before they even think about coming close. At the heart of this layer is the SPY-6 radar system. Now, this isn't your average radar. It can track hundreds of targets simultaneously, from enemy aircraft and missiles to stealth drones. Its range is so vast that it can detect incoming threats from hundreds of miles away. Pair that with reconnaissance aircraft, like the E-2D Hawkeye, which provides even more eyes in the sky, and you've got a surveillance network that's almost impossible to sneak past. If a threat is identified, the SM-6 missiles come into play. These long-range interceptors are fast, precise, and deadly, capable of taking out everything from cruise missiles to fighter jets. But let's say something slips past this first layer. That's where the mid-range defenses kick in. Think of this as the middle wall of a fortress. This layer focuses on cruise missile interception and anti-aircraft systems. Destroyers and cruisers in the carrier strike group use their own advanced weaponry to target anything that gets too close for comfort. These ships are like loyal bodyguards, intercepting threats before they can pose a serious danger to the carrier itself. The goal here is simple: eliminate the threat before it reaches the inner circle. Now, if something manages to break through both the long-range and mid-range defenses, which is a tall order, it faces the carrier's close-range systems. This is the final barrier. And it's where things get really intense. The close-in weapon system, CIWS, often called the phalanx, is one of the most incredible pieces of defensive tech you'll ever see. Picture a rotating turret that can fire thousands of rounds per minute, creating a literal wall of bullets to destroy incoming missiles or aircraft. It's so fast and effective that it's often described as the ship's last line of defense. Short-range missiles and electronic warfare systems also join the fight at this stage. The electronic systems are especially clever. They can jam enemy guidance systems, making missiles miss their targets entirely. It's like playing the ultimate game of keep away with incredibly high stakes. And while these layers protect the carrier from above the waves, the underwater defenses are just as impressive. Submarines pose a significant threat, but the carrier and its group are more than ready for them. Sonar buoys are deployed to detect underwater activity. These devices float in the ocean and send back detailed acoustic data, essentially acting as the carrier's ears beneath the surface. Then, there's the magnetic anomaly detector, which picks up on the subtle changes in the Earth's magnetic field caused by a submarine's metal hull. Infrared systems can even spot the heat signature of a submarine moving underwater. All of this technology works together to ensure that no submarine can approach unnoticed. What really stands out is how resilient these ships are. They're designed to handle massive attacks, including those involving modern hypersonic missiles. These missiles are a real challenge because they travel at speeds of Mach 5 or faster, making them incredibly hard to intercept. But the Gerald R. Ford and its strike group are prepared. The combination of advanced radar, layered defenses, and electronic countermeasures makes it one of the toughest targets on the planet. Even if an enemy managed to land a hit, the carrier is built to take a beating. Its watertight compartments, shock-absorbing structures, and reinforced hull mean it can survive damage that would sink most other ships. At the end of the day, the defensive capabilities of these carriers are nothing short of extraordinary. They're like a fortress at sea, one that can protect itself from almost any threat while continuing to project power and support missions worldwide. When you think about everything working in sync, from the radar systems to the missile interceptors to the sonar buoys, it's clear that this isn't just a ship. It's a technological masterpiece built to stand strong in an increasingly dangerous world. Modern threats, hypersonic, missiles, and more. Aircraft carriers have long been the crown jewels of naval power, but in today's world, they face threats unlike anything we've seen before. The battlefield has changed, and so have the weapons. Two of the most talked about threats come from China and Russia, who have been developing weapons specifically designed to challenge the dominance of ships like the Gerald R. Ford-class carriers. These weapons are no longer theoretical. They're here, and they're making waves in military strategy. Let's start with China's Dongfeng 21D, often called the carrier killer. This is the world's first anti-ship ballistic missile, and it's designed to strike moving targets at sea from an incredible range of up to 1,100 miles. Imagine being able to hit something the size of an aircraft carrier from that far away. This missile makes it possible. What makes the Dongfeng 21D so dangerous is not just its range, but its speed and precision. Once it's launched, it travels at high speeds and uses advanced guidance systems to locate and strike its target. Even more alarming is its maneuverable warhead, which can change its path mid-flight to avoid interception. This makes it a nightmare for traditional missile defense systems. Then, there's Russia's Zircon hypersonic missile, a weapon straight out of a science fiction movie. This missile travels at speeds of up to Mach 9 times the speed of sound. At that velocity, it's incredibly difficult to detect, track, and intercept. To give you an idea, most anti-missile systems are designed to handle targets moving at much lower speeds. The Zircon's speed, combined with its range of about 620 miles, makes it a formidable threat. On top of that, its hypersonic nature means it can adjust its trajectory mid-flight, making it even harder to counter. Russia claims this missile is virtually unstoppable with current defense technology. And that's a chilling thought for any naval commander. So where does this leave carriers like the Gerald R. Ford? Are they sitting ducks in the face of these modern threats? Not quite. The Ford-class carriers are equipped with some of the most advanced defensive systems ever built, and they're specifically designed to counter emerging challenges like hypersonic missiles. Take the SPY-6 radar, for example. This radar isn't just powerful, it's revolutionary. It can track hundreds of targets simultaneously, including fast-moving and stealthy threats like hypersonic missiles. This gives the carrier strike group critical early warning, buying precious seconds to respond. On the offensive side, the carrier's layered defense systems come into play. Long-range interceptors like the SM-6 missiles are designed to engage incoming threats before they get anywhere near the carrier. These missiles are incredibly fast and precise, capable of hitting targets at high altitudes and speeds. If the threat gets closer, the mid-range defenses take over. And finally, the close-range systems like the CIWS kick in. The CIWS, or Close-In Weapon System, is a rapid-fire gun that creates a literal wall of bullets to destroy anything that gets too close. But it's not just about shooting down missiles. The Gerald R. Ford and its strike group also use electronic warfare to jam or confuse enemy weapons. These systems can interfere with the guidance signals of missiles like the Dongfeng 21D or Zircon, causing them to miss their targets entirely. It's a high-tech game of cat and mouse, and the Ford-class carriers are built to play it well. Now, all of this begs the question, can modern technology truly make a ship unsinkable? The short answer is no. Nothing is truly invincible. History has shown us that every new defense eventually meets its match in a new weapon. Remember the Titanic? It was called unsinkable until it wasn't. Similarly, no matter how advanced a carrier is, there's always a risk. A barrage of hypersonic missiles or a well-coordinated attack could overwhelm even the most sophisticated defenses. But here's the thing. The goal isn't to make the ship invincible. It's to make it so difficult and costly to attack that adversaries think twice before trying. The cost of power, is it worth it? When you hear that the Gerald R. Ford-class aircraft carrier costs a jaw-dropping $100 billion to build, it's natural to ask, is it really worth it? That's not even counting the millions of dollars required every single day to operate a carrier strike group. It's a staggering investment by any measure, and while these carriers are undeniably impressive, their cost sparks an important debate about military spending and priorities. Let's dive into why these carriers cost so much, the arguments for and against their price tag, and whether the U.S. Navy might scale back its fleet in the future. Building an aircraft carrier like the Gerald R. Ford isn't like building any other ship. It's essentially creating a floating city packed with cutting-edge technology. The $100 billion price tag includes the ship itself, all its advanced systems, and the training required for the thousands of sailors who will operate it. But that's just the beginning. Once the carrier is active, it becomes the centerpiece of a carrier strike group, CSG, which includes guided missile cruisers, destroyers, submarines, and supply ships. The entire group can cost around $6.5 million per day to operate. To put that in perspective, running a single CSG for a year costs over $2 billion. For many, these costs are justified. Aircraft carriers are more than just warships. They're symbols of power and influence. Their presence in a region can deter adversaries and reassure allies. Imagine you're a smaller country facing a threat from a regional power. The arrival of a U.S. carrier strike group sends a loud and clear message. You're not alone, and we've got your back. That kind of reassurance is priceless in global diplomacy. And for adversaries, the mere thought of having to take on a carrier strike group can make them think twice before acting aggressively. Carriers are also incredibly versatile. They can project power far beyond U.S. borders, delivering fighter jets, drones, and helicopters to areas thousands of miles away. Whether it's a humanitarian mission, a show of force, or actual combat, carriers can adapt to almost any situation. In today's unpredictable world, that flexibility is invaluable. However, not everyone agrees that the costs are worth it. Critics argue that the money spent on aircraft carriers could be better used elsewhere. For example, emerging technologies like hypersonic weapons, drones, and artificial intelligence are reshaping modern warfare. Instead of pouring billions into maintaining a fleet of carriers, some believe the U.S. should focus on developing these cutting-edge systems to stay ahead of its adversaries. Hypersonic missiles, for instance, are becoming a significant threat to carriers. If these weapons can bypass even the most advanced defenses, does it make sense to keep investing in such expensive ships? There's also the issue of diminishing returns. The US currently operates 11 active carriers, more than the rest of the world combined. But do we really need that many? Maintaining such a large fleet requires enormous resources, and some experts argue that scaling back to 7 or fewer carriers would free up funds for other priorities. Reducing the fleet would allow the Navy to invest in next-generation technologies, build smaller, more agile ships, and enhance its ability to respond to new types of threats. The idea of reducing the carrier fleet isn't new, and it's gaining traction in certain circles. Supporters of this approach point out that the global landscape is changing. Adversaries like China and Russia are focusing on asymmetric strategies, such as hypersonic weapons and cyber warfare, to counter traditional U.S. military advantages. By rethinking its reliance on carriers, the U.S. could adapt more effectively to these challenges. On the other hand, downsizing the carrier fleet comes with risks. Fewer carriers mean less global coverage, which could weaken the U.S.'s ability to respond to multiple crises simultaneously. It might also send the wrong message to allies and adversaries, potentially signaling a decline in U.S. commitment to maintaining global stability. So, is the cost of these carriers worth it? The answer isn't simple. It ultimately depends on how you view their role in national security. If you see carriers as essential tools for projecting power, deterring aggression, and supporting allies, then their cost is justified. But if you believe the future of warfare lies in new technologies and unconventional tactics, it might be time to rethink the current strategy.